Gus Hansen is a poker player who really needs no introduction, but let's give him one anyway. Hansen, nicknamed the Great Dane for his Danish heritage, has nearly $4 million in live tournament winnings and countless more earnings from cash game play. As far as tournaments are concerned, he has taken down the Aussie Millions main event, the 2002 Five Diamond Roll Poker Classic main event, the 2003 LA Poker Classic main event, and the 2004 PokerStars Caribbean Adventure main event. As far as cash games go, he has starred on GSN's High Stakes Poker and has been known to have $1 million days online. He caused a stir in the online poker community when he ended a 2-month, $1 million losing streak with a 3-day $1 million winning streak. Hansen recently set up a blog on cardplayer.com to talk all about his exploits in poker, from cash games to tournaments to everyday affairs of a poker pro. He's also set to contribute columns to Card Player magazine in the near future. Hansen is about to take part in the NBC Heads Up Poker Challenge coming up in about a week here in Las Vegas, and he's likely to blog about that too. He's one of the 60 invited professionals that will attend the much-anticipated event. We've got Hansen on the line right now from Denmark to talk to us about the Heads Up Challenge, about how he lands his big tournament wins, and about Pot Limit Omaha, his cash game of choice. All right, how you doing today, Gus?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very good. I really appreciate you doing this interview with us.
Hey, no problem. Anytime.
Well, first, let's talk about the Heads Up Poker event, which is going to start really soon. Do you consider yourself one of the world's best heads-up players?
One of the world's best heads-up players. I think that might be taking it a little bit too far. I mean, basically, I've always thought that poker, and I still do think that poker is a game where you need a lot of experience. And I have to admit that I don't have that much experience heads-up. I mean, I have been heads-up at some World Poker Tour final tables and so on. And actually, since I've more wins than second places, I guess I'm doing okay in that category. But you need a lot of experience, and especially heads-up poker is a tough game, very challenging game, and I think there's too many heads-up experts around, maybe on the internet, or at least people who has a lot more experience in the heads-up category than me. So I'm going to say I think I can hold my ground in on most occasions, but I wouldn't consider myself being the top.
Well, when you play cash games on Full Tilt Poker, you're playing really high-stakes cash games to the point that it's usually short-handed or heads-up. So you probably have a decent amount of heads-up poker experience, although I'd agree
I do have some, but I mean, I would say it's a big difference between being three-handed or four-handed and then heads-up, because the heads-up, you're constantly in action. I mean, you're always in the blinds, you always have money involved, so heads-up really is a different kind of game, and basically you definitely need to be aggressive, and I don't think I have any lack of aggressiveness in my style of play, but still, again, some of the more experienced heads-up players, to mention a few like Patrick Antonius or Phil Ivey, who I know has played a lot more heads-up than I have, I will have to give them the edge.
Okay. Well, what do you think the key is to playing heads-up effectively?
Well, as I said, a little bit of experience doesn't hurt, but I mean, basically, you have to challenge your opponent. There's constantly money lying out in the pot, and some of it is yours, is your contribution to the pot. So, I mean, you want to get a hold of that. You want to claim that bit of money that's out there. I mean, if you just sit back and wait for really strong hands, you can wait forever, and basically, you're going to be blinded down. So you got to take charge. You got to play aggressively. I mean, you don't have to play each and every hand, but you definitely just can't fold like you do in like a 4 or 5-handed game or something like that. So you constantly have to be on the edge, challenging your opponent and play aggressively.
Okay. Well, what's going to be your biggest challenge in this NBC Heads Up Challenge?
Well, first of all, I'd like to proceed to the second round. I've played it 3 years so far, and in the first year I won my first match pretty, I wouldn't say easily, but I felt like I had a commanding position, and lost my second round to Chris Ferguson, whom I thought played very well. The last 2 years, I've exited out in the first round in what I thought would be a very good matchup for me. But what can I say? 2 defeats later, maybe I have to change my mind. No, I actually feel like I've played pretty well in all 3 NBC heads-up events, but I have 2 first-round exits and a second-round exit, so I'm definitely hoping to improve that. And I think over the year, like you mentioned, I've played a fairly high-stake internet poker where it's short-handed, and I definitely think that I've improved my short-handed and thereby also my heads-up game since last year. So hopefully the results will come.
Excellent. Well, good luck. Yep.
Thanks a lot.
As far as this event or really any other poker tournament is concerned, how do you go about preparing before the tournament even starts?
Well, I mean, I don't especially have any rituals of any kind, and I think the best kind of preparation you can have is, it's just basically be in balance, feel good, have a good night's sleep. I mean, personally, I love to do a lot of sports. I play some tennis and some squash and some soccer and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I always feel better if I have a good night's sleep and maybe a little jog in the morning or maybe a game of tennis or something like that. So that's my optimal way to prepare, but it's going to be different for everybody. But, I mean, do something make you feel good about yourself, or just do what you do normally so you're in control and balance, and then sit down at the poker table and play some good poker.
Okay. And well, the exercise definitely makes sense. It kind of gets the oxygen flowing to the brain so that you're better able to focus and pay attention, so...
Yeah, I think, if you just get out of bed and right down at the poker table, you might be a little slow and you might not really have woken up yet. So just to get the whole body functioning, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Well, like you said before, you're known for being an aggressive player. Are you truly as aggressive as you seem?
Well, it depends. I mean, I'd like to think that I vary my game depending on the situation, but I think TV definitely has a way of presenting my game that makes it seem very aggressive. I mean, I am aggressive. I challenge a lot of hands. I play more hands than people usually do, but I don't think I'm as aggressive as I'm perceived, just because I think TV seems to emphasize that part of my game a little bit more. So TV, they can kind of shape it in the way and the form they wanted to present it. So not quite as aggressive, but I still think I belong in the aggressive category of players.
Okay, and that's actually why I asked you, because most people who are categorized as aggressive tend to think that they aren't as aggressive as other people think they are. So I just wanted to get your take.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, the thing is, aggressive players, they might play twice as many hands as more tight, solid players. But the thing is, the tight, solid players, they might only play good hands, but the aggressive players, they get into good hands as well, and the aggressive players play more hands and might have a little better feel for what is actually a good hand in some late position scenarios. So I think that tight players, they might play too few hands. They probably should play a little bit more, whereas aggressive players maybe sometimes should play a little bit less. But I think in general, aggressive players are perceived more aggressive than they actually are.
Well, how do you play aggressive poker effectively then? Like, what mistakes are people making when they're attempting to play aggressively?
Well, I mean, not knowing the circumstances. You can't just raise blindly, without any regard for opponents and positions and so on. And I think some people at home, it's questions I've been asked. It's like, how come you raise with a 5-6 offsuit and I do the same and I lose all my money. Yeah, well, maybe it was a different scenario. Maybe the blinds were higher, so I had to make a move. Maybe my position was better. Maybe I knew my opponent to be very tight, so I knew there was a good chance he was going to fold. So there might be some factors that made me play that 5-6 offsuit, a hand that I would normally fold, but in this circumstance it was the right play and it succeeded, whereas others, they blindly look at the 5-6 without any regard to everything else that's going on. So, I mean, basically knowing your opponents, knowing the situation, knowing the blinds and the antes and when they go up and when they don't is all key factors in playing the right style of play. And as we've talked about so far, I think the aggressive style is the right way to play, but you have to know when and where and why.
Well, and also knowing how to play post-flop when you start playing, opening up your range is extremely vital, and that's, I think, where a lot of people go wrong as well.
Obviously, and that's where another key word, experience, comes in. I mean, some people attempting to play a little bit open style, a little more crazy aggressive style, they get into situations where they don't know what foot to stand on, so what leg to stand on, so they get caught in their own little aggressive scheme, and if you don't know how to operate after the flop, or at least are uncertain in some situations, then maybe you should stick to a little more tight, solid style. But hey, I mean, it's not like I'm saying this like I always know what to do after the flop, and trust me, I don't. I make tons of mistakes. We all do. It's poker. It's a guessing game, some part of the time at least. So, but again, experience, having been in that situation before, does help. It does make you more likely to make good, solid decisions post-flop.
Well, you recently started a blog on cardplayer.com. What kind of things do you plan to write about?
Well, it really depends. I mean, I'm obviously going to write about my win in the NBC Heads Up Championship. And so forth. But no, really, I don't have a planned series of blogs or columns or anything. I mean, my life is very much up in the air. By up in the air, I mean I don't plan too much ahead. I mean, I know I'm going to the NBC Heads Up, but what lies ahead, I don't know. So I kind of take it day by day, and I think people are going to see that in my blogs. A lot of times it's going to be, I think this upcoming blog is probably going to be a couple of my hands from the EPT in Copenhagen that I just recently played. So it really depends on what happened during the week and what's going on. Have I played some interesting poker hands that I like to share, or is there anything otherwise crazy going on, any big bets on the golf course or so on. So basically it could be a little bit of everything, and hopefully it'll be enjoyable and interesting to read for all the card player readers out there.
I'm sure it will be. You were talking about how you might put in things like hands that you played, like from the EPT Copenhagen that you just busted out of. Well, when you do that kind of thing, are you concerned at all about giving away little bits of your edge in such posts?
See, that's an old story that I still I almost don't believe I still get asked that question, but I know it's lurking out there. The thing is, I play so many poker hands day in and day out, and month in and month out, year in, year out, that the fact that I'm talking about a couple of hands that I played here and there is not going to affect the overall picture. If people think they have me figured out just because I tell them how I played a big bluff, or how I played my two aces, or how I played Jack 7 suited, or so on, if they think they got me all figured out, I mean, they're welcome to join the big games on Full Tilt Poker on the internet, or join the big game in Las Vegas, because I'm actually pretty sure they haven't figured me out. But, I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But, I mean, just because I give a little information here and there. It's not going to be the end of me in the poker world. I'm still going to pop my head up here and there, and I mean, I don't feel like it's going to take anything away from my game. I still think the most important factor for a good poker player is to be able to vary your style of play, and the fact that I played it like that one time, maybe I'll play it another way the next time. So.
Okay. Well, your first blog post on cardplayer.com was about how poker players, poker pros specifically, are increasingly becoming businessmen as well. How is that happening with you?
Well, I mean, I have, as well as some other players out there, have a manager, have this and that. I've kept it in the family. My brother-in-law is my business manager, and my sister is taking care of everything, organizing everything from taking care of bank accounts and blah blah blah. So basically, we have a good little team. I'm the crazy poker player, and of course I'm involved in the other aspects as well. But I don't consider myself. I am a businessman, but that doesn't mean I'm a good businessman. So it's good to have some qualified help around you, and my brother-in-law is very well qualified. He takes care of a lot of business decisions. We, of course, discuss them together, but a lot of time I definitely ask him for final decisions of what's going on or whether this is a good venture or not. So basically, I'm a businessman in that sense. I'm involved in a lot of business that has come from the increased popularity of poker, but I don't consider myself a CEO of any company or a board member of any kind or that kind of businessman. I don't see myself as that, but I am involved in a lot of business ventures. So I think by that I also mean a lot of poker players are involved in a lot of things that most of the time connects to poker, but it could also be like sunglasses or other things that poker players wear on TV and so on. So yeah, I'm definitely involved in a lot of things without always having to make the executive decision.
Okay. We also started up a poker site that's kind of really comprehensive. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, basically, it's called The Player without the E, PLAYR .com, theplayer.com, and basically we started out as a Danish site, basically 8 guys together, basically featuring a lot of my stuff, a lot of my ideas, a lot of my attempts to win EPTs, WPTs, and World Series of Poker events, and just following me around, coming up with good advice, and basically creating a community where, of course, because of my connection with Full Tilt Poker, it's all connected with Full Tilt Poker. The player kind of leads you into there, and basically we have tournaments where I enter, so everybody can come in and play like $5 tournaments and play against me and knock me out and get prizes for knocking me out and so on. So it's kind of a little community with poker news, a lot of my poker ideas, and some playing against me, and we have a feature every week about people can send in questions. Members of theplayer.com can send in questions, and basically I'm answering. I can't answer all questions, but I'll pick out some of the good ones, and basically keep everybody updated. So we have a lot of features. We just had a big event where some of our top players were invited to a big festive evening with me as a host, and some dinner and some card game and some prizes. And so we have all kinds of features, and basically it's, as I said, started in Denmark, and now we've gone a little bit more worldwide. We've got the site in English as well, which of course we all know is a big poker language, and we have some connections with some Italians and Germans, and basically translating to different languages as well. So basically we're creating a community where everybody kind of is on the same page and has the same idea and maybe wants to get better, and hopefully some of my advice can help them get better. So basically it's looking good, and we're creating a community where people really enjoy the things that we do. So it's looking really good and really nice.
Absolutely. It sounds great. Well, let's switch to Pot Limit Omaha cash games right now. What sets you apart from the other players in that game?
Well, what sets me apart is the fact that they all think that I'm the donkey.
Why is that?
That's what sets me apart from all of them. But since I have a very untraditional style of play, I've always been perceived a little bit as a madman, the crazy guy, the donkey, the pigeon, call it whatever you want. But the fact that I'm still standing after 10 years of poker leads me to believe that maybe I'm not as big a donkey as they perceive, or maybe I'm not as aggressive as they perceive.
That could be
so,
true.
I mean, looks can be deceiving. So basically, I have a different style of play, and I will say, I mean, I have played Pot Limit Omaha for a year and a half on full tilt. And before that, I had limited experience with Pot Limit Omaha. And I can definitely see if you compare my Pot Limit Omaha game today, today's date, I think, is whatever of February. And if we go a year back, my game has improved tremendously. I mean, I've really learned a lot because just you have to see hands, whatever. Even though you might be a good poker player and hold'em, no limit hold'em, and stud, whatever, and by that you should quickly adapt another poker game. You have to see some hands. You have to know the hand configurations. You have to know what hands are good in certain situations and so on. And I've definitely gotten better over the last year and a half, and basically my results it's a very swingy game. My results has been very swingy, but it seems like I'm getting the hang of it, and I'm more than holding my own, so I can't complain. And like I said, they all want to play with me, so it's not that bad.
Well, who specifically are your toughest opponents in that game, in the PLO cash games?
Well, in the PLO cash games, I don't think they're all always as precise as they want to be. The sites that kind of update who is the biggest winner this month and who is the biggest loser and so on, but they try to keep track. But if you follow there, Phil Ivey, as always, is a tough competitor. There's Hillary, the young Finnish guy. His nickname is Sigmund on Full Tilt, and the Patrick Antonios. So two of the names I mentioned in the heads up are also roaming in the pot limit sphere as very tough players. And there's some young guys. There's Tom Duan, nicknamed Dur on Full Tilt. So there's a couple of tough ones, but it is a swingy game, and just because you win $1 million 1 month doesn't mean that you're a God-given talent, because the swings are incredible. Because in Pot Limit Omaha, you have a lot of situations where you flop the absolute stone-cold nuts, but you're actually an underdog in the hand. So there's a lot of swings and a lot of situations where you can't feel too comfortable, because even though you have the nuts, your opponent has plenty of options to beat you. So it's a tough game. It's a challenging game. It's a very swingy game, and therefore also a very mental game. You've got to keep your composure. So I'm really starting to like the Pot Limit Omaha.
You're starting to like it after a year and a half.
Well, that was a little understatement, but I think you guys understand what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
You guys and girls.
Well, I've heard people advise beginning PLO players to play even more tightly pre-flop than they would in Hold'em. Then again, PLO is a game where no hand truly dominates another hand pre-flop by very much. So that, to me, would make me think that you'd want to see more flops. What's your standpoint on that?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the situations. I mean, there's definitely situations where you want to see more flops, and there's also situations where you should be a little more concerned. And the advice about playing tight, good starting hands is not that bad because, like you said, there's truly not one hand that dominates another hand pre-flop, but if you get the little bit better starting hands and you get the right flop, you can totally dominate your opponent. I mean, to the extent that he is drawing dead and basically only hoping for a tie. So that's where the edge from the better starting hands. You can have situations where you have the 10-9-8-7, and even though it's not that much better than the 9-8-7-5, you can just have situations where it totally dominates the 9-8-7-5 because you got the higher 10 kicker and you drawing to the bigger straight and you have the same hand and you're just free rolling. So there can be situations like that where it just pays off to have just a little bit better hand, little more all four cards working together. So there's definitely some sense in that, but there's also situations where you position is also a big key to that game. But there's also situations where you can play like a deuce 4-6-8 because you know your opponent has two aces, and now you might be able to win a big pot if the flop comes your way. So basically, there's pros and cons, but I mean, in general, when you don't have any money invested in the pot and you can play tight, then well, it's not that bad to play tight. But there's different opinions on that subject, and like I said, I'm the donkey, so how would I know?
Well, do you think bluffing is easier or harder in PLO?
That's a tough question. I mean, the thing is, in Hold'em, most of the time your opponent does not connect with a flop,
right? Which
kind of makes it harder to, makes it easier to bluff him because just by merely betting, he's not going to call with 10 high if the flop comes ace king 4. I mean, it's an impossible call. So basically, in that sense, it should be easier to bluff in Hold'em. But on the other hand, people also expect to hit more in Omaha, and of course they should because you have four cards to hit with. But the thing is, if you just hit a little bit in Omaha, it doesn't look that appealing. So now you can bluff out people in Omaha when they hit absolutely nothing, but you could also maybe bluff them out when they hit only a little bit. And the fact when the pot goes on through the turn in the river, it's easier to represent flushes and straights in Omaha, even though you don't really have anything, just because, I mean, flushes and straights are very easy to make in Omaha, so it's much easier to make your opponent believe that you actually did make the flush, or did make the straight, or did make the full house. So I actually think that there's probably more room to bluff in Omaha.
Okay. Well, Omaha is especially popular in Europe nowadays. What are your thoughts on the future of poker in Europe in general?
Well, I mean, my thoughts on the future of poker is, I would say, once politicians around the world comes to their senses, that poker has a very bright future. And even though some ridiculous attempts to stop poker here and there has been made, I think it's too big to stop. I mean, basically, there's poker on TV. You can play in the comfort of your home. It's accepted by anybody. You talk about it at your workplace. Hey, I'm playing my local club on Thursday. You want to join, and this and that. It's everybody plays, and it truly is a great game. I mean, there's skill. As we all know, there's also some luck involved. Everybody can beat everybody on a given day. In the long run, the better player will outlast the not-so-tough opponents, but there's math, there's psychology, there's a little bit of this, you needed some experience, and basically there's a little bit of everything, some guessing, a little twist of this and that, and it's just a good game. And it's the first time that the world really has a game that everybody plays, and I really do think it's comes to stay. And if we talk whether or it's going to be always going to be Hold'em or Omaha is going to find a place in there as well. I mean, people do play Omaha, and I think it's a good game as well as Hold'em. I just think that Hold'em has a big edge because that's the game everybody knows.
Right.
So but I think there's room for different kinds of games. There's room for some stud and some Omaha and some Hold'em, but I think Hold'em has such a insurmountable lead that would always be the preferred choice of game.
Well, and I mean, 5-card draw was the preferred game of choice for poker for a long time, and then all of a sudden, Hold'em came in and kind of took over the reins and stud.
Yeah,
but
that was still on such a much smaller scale. Now we're in a much broader, dominant scale around the world where people do play Hold'em. So I think that's it's definitely going to take some time to get everybody else adjusted to the different rules of Omaha and the fact you can not use 3 cards or 4 cards from your hand, but only 2, and you have to use 3 from the table and so forth. So just changing tradition is a hard thing to do, and now there's a tradition for it's no limit Hold'em that's being shown on TV, that's no limit Hold'em that's being played. So I think it's going to stay that way for a long time, and Hold'em is a great game. So
not all bad.
Hey, no reason to change. The fact that I also like to play a lot of Omaha, I can play with all the dummies on full tilt in Omaha and still play the big tournaments, no limit Hold'em.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I had for you. I really appreciate you doing this interview with us.
Hey, no problem. Anytime. If you have any more questions, I'm sure I'll come up with some crazy answer.
Great. Well, and good luck in the NBC Heads Up coming up.
Well, thanks a lot.
Well, I'll be watching on cardplayer.com. And thank you guys for watching The Online Zone on Card Player TV.